Greetings everybody, welcome back to my channel. Thank you all for tuning in. Tonight we're going to talk a little Genesis. I'm going to rank the 15 studio albums from Genesis from my least favorite to my favorite. Genesis is a band that, spoiler alert, I prefer the Phil Collins era. I came into Genesis because I got into Phil Collins solo material first. So that definitely plays a little bit of a factor as to which era of Genesis I favor. But still, I think Genesis, they cover a lot of ground in their 15 studio albums from the beginning to the end. They change a lot, and I've always thought the shift in their sound from the really very proggy beginning to the poppier 80s period, I always thought was a very interesting transition. So let's get into the ranking of Genesis, and coming in the number 15 spot, I've got this one right here.
We're waiting for you. Come and join us now.
Number 15, the only Genesis album that I don't own on any format, is the very first one, From Genesis to Revelation. This one, to me, it's not terribly memorable, aside from maybe when sweet turns to sour. But I just always thought this felt like a kind of forgettable Beatles album. This one, it just doesn't jump out at me like in any sort of way, and that's why it comes in at the bottom. So number 15, From Genesis to Revelation. In the number 14 spot, let's go with the band's last album, Calling All Stations, the only one that does not feature either Phil Collins or Peter Gabriel. You've got Ray Wilson on this one, and it's not the greatest album, though it's not bad either. You think you got some decent songs like Calling All Stations, Congo, Shipwrecked, and The Dividing Line, but this one, it just doesn't really feel like a Genesis album to me. And well, it's not like, it always kind of reminded me of Van Halen 3. You've got this legendary band on their third singer. The album just kind of doesn't live up to the hype. Van Halen 3 is a much worse album than Calling All Stations is, but this one doesn't really do much for me either. So in the number 14 spot, I'm going to go with Calling All Stations. In the number 14 spot, and probably where I'm going to start ruffling some feathers, I have Selling England by the Pound. Or I guess I'm at number 13, not 14. Never mind. In the number 13 spot, Selling England by the Pound. I do prefer the first half of this album to the second. Dancing with the Moonlit Night is probably my favorite song on the album. I Know What I Like in Your Wardrobe is really good. Firth of Fifth as well. It's not a bad album. I do like this significantly better than I like Calling All Stations or Genesis to Revelation. But for some reason, this one just never really clicked with me quite as much as even the other Peter Gabriel albums. And as I said earlier, I do tend to prefer the Phil Collins era. But still, not a bad album by any means. It just happens to be number 13 for me. In the number 12 spot, Nursery Crime, the band's third album. My two big standouts on this to me would be The Musical Box and Harold the Barrel. Otherwise, it's a pretty good album. The reason that a lot of these Peter Gabriel ones are going to sink to the bottom of my list, and the reason why I prefer the Phil Collins era, other than the fact that I got into Genesis because of Phil Collins, is that these Peter Gabriel albums, I tend to have to be in the mood specifically for them, as opposed to the later period where I feel like I can play them at about any time and enjoy them. So that's why a lot of these Peter Gabriel ones are going to fall toward the bottom of my list. But I definitely understand most people probably prefer this era, and that's perfectly fine. Nursery Crime, it's still a pretty good album, but for me, it's only my 12th favorite.
Cast to trespass where no wolf may tread, the last sacred haunt of the dead. He learned of a truth which only one will
In the number 11 spot, I'm going to go with the band's second album, Trespass. I think it's a pretty significant jump up over their first album. And I think the two songs that really lift this one above Nursery Crime and Selling England by the Pound for me is White Mountain and The Knife. I love both those songs. Probably would take those two songs over anything off those other two. I really dig those, but this one's still got, Looking for Someone's really good, Visions of Angels, Stagnation. So it's a good album all the way through. It's going to come in the number 11 spot for me.
I would search everywhere just to hear.
In the number 10 spot, I'm going to go with Wind and Wuthering, the second album released with Phil Collins on vocals. And this is an interesting one to me. I think it's a really atmospheric album. Songs like 11th Earl of Mar, One for the Vine, and Afterglow tend to be my favorites on here. But this is one that, this is another one I would say I kind of have to be in the mood for. So it is going to come in as my least favorite of the Phil Collins era, but it's still a good album. Number 10 for me is Wind and Wuthering. If there is any album that I had no idea what to do with, it was And Then There Were Three from Genesis. I listen to this album sometimes and I think this is totally underrated. I listen to this album other times and think it's a bit of a dud. And I don't know what the pattern is. It just seems like every time I play this album, I have a completely different feeling about it. But I settled on putting it here in ninth. Down and Out's kind of a song that sometimes I love it, sometimes I'm not into it. But songs that I pretty much always like on here would be Ballad of Big. I would say is my favorite song on the album. Snowbound is really nice as well. Scenes from a Night's Dream is pretty cool. And of course, you got the hit song Follow You, Follow Me is really good. So an album that I really had no idea what to do with because I just can't seem to nail down exactly how I feel about this album. But I'm going to stick it in the number 9 spot.
Lights down on Broadway.
In the number 8 spot, I'm going to go with The Land Lies Down on Broadway. These top 2 Peter Gabriel albums for me that I have here are pretty significantly my top 2. This copy here of Land Lies Down on Broadway, it's a little bit worse for wear, at least the cover is, but it was only $1, and it actually plays fairly nicely for being only $1. But this is an album that I think is more impressive, just the magnitude of it. It's a double record, double concept record, and it is extremely well written and extremely well put together, in my opinion, but it's not one that I find myself listening to all that much, if that makes sense. I think it's a great piece of artistic work, and I think the songs that stand out on here to me tend to be some of my favorite from the Peter Gabriel era, like the title track, Fly in a Windshield, Cuckoo Cocoon, In a Cage, Carpet Crawlers, the album closer, It, is really good too. So it's not one that I find myself listening to an awful lot, but one that I just got to sit back and really applaud these guys for putting together such a great piece of work here. So coming in at the number 8 spot for me, I have The Land Lies Down on Broadway.
Keep it dark.
Number 7, I'm going to go with Abacab, released in 1981. This one is another album that I'm kind of conflicted about. On one hand, I kind of want to put it higher than 7. On another hand, I could have probably even snuck this one below Land Lies Down on Broadway, but I'm going to put it here in the number 7 spot. I love the title track, Abacab. I love No Reply at All. Keep It Dark, I think, is one of the band's more underrated tracks. Dodo Lurker is great as well. And I kind of dig the last song, Another Record, but this one also has a couple of songs I just can't get that into. Like Me and Sarah Jane, to me, is a bit of a bit of a skipper. And Who Done It is quite possibly the worst song in the band's catalog. So, another conflicting Genesis album for me, but I do think the good outweighs the bad. I'm going to put Abacab in the number 7 spot.
Watch out of the skies, watch them all. Is the world alone? No world is on.
In the number 6 spot, and I would say this one's pretty much always been my favorite with Peter Gabriel, that is Foxtrot, the band's 4th studio album, released in 1972. The first half of this album has some really cool stuff. I think Watchers of the Skies is a lot of fun. Timetable, Get 'Em Out by Friday, also really fun. You got the B-side, Horizons is a nice little instrumental that I find quite enjoyable. And of course, you've got the 23-minute epic Supper's Ready. So some great stuff here from Genesis. I think this would be kind of their masterpiece of the Gabriel album. You could also say that about Lamb Lies Down on Broadway. Of the two, I find myself going to Foxtrot a little bit more often. That's why I'm going to slide Foxtrot in the number 6 spot. Number 5, I'm going to go with Trick of the Tail, the first album with Phil Collins on lead vocal, and I think a really awesome Genesis album right here. Another album I think it's off to just a very strong start with Dance on a Volcano. I love the instrumentation that really kicks the album off in that song. Entangled is a wonderfully, beautifully creepy song. It's awesome. Squonk is a lot of fun. Madman Moon. Of course, on the back half, you've got Trick of the Tail and Los Endos, which is awesome as well. So coming in the number 5 spot, I have A Trick of the Tail. All right, here's one that I don't think too many people have anywhere close to being this high, but I'm going to go with We Can't Dance in the number 4 spot. This one took a few listens for me to get into. When I first got this album, I wasn't really that into it, aside from No Son of Mine, Jesus He Knows Me, and I Can't Dance. But the more that I've listened to it, the more that I've begun to really appreciate this one. And I do kind of think that maybe this album would have been better served as a Phil Collins solo album as opposed to a Genesis album. I think it just feels more like a Phil Collins solo effort to me. But aside from the 3 songs that I already mentioned, Driving Last Spike is quite good. Never a Time is pretty good. Tell Me Why, Living Forever, Way of the World, and Fading Lights, all songs I've grown to really appreciate. So it's definitely not the rockiest Genesis album, but it's one that I've grown to enjoy quite a bit. So number 4 for me is We Can't Dance. Coming in the number 3 spot, and these top 3 are pretty easily my top 3, I would say. In the 3 spot, I'm going to go with Duke, released in 1980. A pretty awesome album from start to finish here. Behind the Lines is a really fun, energetic opener. Then you go right into Duchess, which is another great song as well. Man of the Times is fun. Understanding I like a lot. Another one of those early hits for the band. Turn It On Again, another one of their hits that I really love. Alone Tonight, Cul-de-sac, and you got Duke's Travels and Duke's End at the end there, which are both awesome songs as well. If there's 2 songs on here that I'm not crazy about, it would be Heath A's and Please Don't Ask, but neither song is terrible by any means. But coming in the number 3 spot, I got Duke. In the number 2 spot, I'm going to go with Invisible Touch. This is the band's best-selling album. This is their 13th studio album, released in 1986, hot off the heels of the immensely successful No Jacket Required from Phil Collins the year prior. This one sees Genesis kind of going in about the same direction, and I think it's pretty awesome. Invisible Touch is a really fun song. Tonight, Land of Confusion. The one song here I don't really care for is In Too Deep. But other than that, you've got Anything She Does, which is probably my favorite on the album. Domino's pretty good as well, especially the second part of the song where it really picks up is the part I really like. Throwing It All Away is a great ballad, and The Brazilian is a fun instrumental to close things out. So I know a lot of the proggier Genesis fans probably don't have Invisible Touch anywhere near the top of their list, but I like this one quite a bit. For me, it's number 2. Leave my favorite Genesis album to be the self-titled, released in 1983, or Shapes as it is sometimes referred to. And I think this album just has the balance between the poppier Genesis and the proggier Genesis. I think this is the one that just has the balance that I like the best. That's All and Just a Job to Do are two songs that I've always enjoyed hearing on the radio. Mama is just a really fun, creepy kind of opener, and I love that laugh that Phil Collins does in the song, the so weird. Home by the Sea is probably my favorite song on the album. That and second, Home by the Sea, I think is kind of one of the proggier moments on the album, but I love those two tracks. Illegal Alien I like a lot more than most people do. I think it's a fun song that I don't feel like there was any ill intent with that song, so, and it's catchy as all get out. Taking It All Too Hard is a good ballad. Silver Rainbow is pretty good, and it's going to get better. So a lot of great stuff here on the self-titled Genesis album. It is my favorite from the Genesis catalog. So in the comments below, let me know how you would rank the Genesis catalog. If you like this kind of content, please give me a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel for more videos like this in the future, and I'll catch you next time.